The old wooden box arrived on Rose's doorstep without a return address. She hadn't thought about her childhood home in years, much less Abigail, the delicate porcelain doll her mother had treasured. "Abigail protects us," her mother used to say, stroking the doll's blonde curls as if it were alive. Rose had always felt unsettled by the doll's glassy blue eyes that seemed to watch her, even in the dark. After her mother passed, Rose's father locked Abigail away in the attic. The doll had become a haunting reminder of her mother's obsession, and Rose, relieved, never gave it another thought. But now here Abigail was again, inside a worn wooden box, wrapped in the same yellowed lace her mother had used to care for the doll. When Rose's husband, Tom, saw the doll later that evening, his face blanched. "Why is that here?" he asked, unease clear in his voice. "It just showed up," Rose muttered, feeling a chill run down her spine. She placed the doll in the living room and tried to forget about it. But that night Rose dreamt of her childhood home, the creaking attic, and the heavy locked trunk where Abigail had been stored. In her dream, the trunk was open, and the doll sat on her childhood bed, its painted lips moving. "I'm home," Abigail whispered, her voice soft but menacing. Rose jolted awake in a cold sweat, her heart pounding in her chest. The clock read 3 a.m. She turned to Tom, but froze. There, between them, was Abigail, resting on the pillow, her eyes wide open. Rose screamed, waking Tom. But by the time he flipped on the light, Abigail was back on the mantel, exactly where they had left her. Over the next few nights, things escalated. Shadows moved in the corners of their home. Footsteps echoed in the hallways, too light to be an adult's. And every time Rose blinked, Abigail's position would change, her smile growing ever so slightly wider. Tom suggested they get rid of the doll, but every attempt failed. Abigail always returned, neatly placed back on the mantel. Feeling desperate, Rose dug through her father's old belongings, hoping to find answers. Hidden deep in a box of forgotten things was his journal. One entry, dated just after her mother's passing, caught her eye. "Abigail was never a doll. I can't believe we kept her with us for so long. She was part of our family, but not in the way Rose ever understood. Her mother knew the truth. She was a twin." Rose's breath hitched. A twin? She had no memory of a sister. The next entry sent a chill through her bones. "We named her Abigail, but she wasn't born right. She never cried, never breathed. But your mother, she couldn't let her go. She had her placed into the doll. That doll is no toy, Rose. It's Abigail, and she wants to come home." Rose dropped the journal, her hands shaking. She had a sister her mother had trapped in the form of a doll. That night, as the clock struck 3 a.m., Rose woke to the sound of a child's giggle. Heart pounding, she looked to the foot of the bed. There stood Abigail, but she was no longer just a doll. Her once still body had become fluid, her joints moving with unnatural ease. Behind her, a shadowy figure loomed, a little girl with hollow eyes, her mouth twisted into a grin. That night, Tom found Rose cradling the doll, whispering sweet nothings as if it were a real child. Her eyes, once warm, were now cold and distant, matching Abigail's glassy stare.